What's going on, everybody? We are here for Wednesday's reading. Welcome to the middle of the week. We started off with some pretty positive energy going into this week, having to do with nurture, self-care, pampering yourself a little bit, very feminine energy. A couple queen cards, the Empress card. So now, hoping that you took some of that advice moving forward into the week. I had mentioned I had already been doing some face masks and just going a little bit above and beyond in the pampering. Let me know if any of you, here's a card that jumped out. Do we want to, I think we'll go with this. I think we'll pull that for the first card. But yeah, let me know if you guys did anything special to kind of bless yourself going into this week and just really putting that intention and action into creating a more positive environment for yourself and just kind of self-care. That being said, let's get into this video. As you can see, the first card already jumped out. This is moving into the middle of the week, the Wednesday reading, but it can kind of blur Tuesday to Thursday, just kind of varying depending on how the energy is affecting you and just kind of your own personal life. So if it's not specifically Wednesday, know that it's just kind of the vague middle of the week, wherever that is for you. That can also kind of depend on are you working a straight 9 to 5 Monday through Friday? Are you working kind of weird hours? Are you working multiple jobs? It's more about feeling for you. I'm never going to be tied to but it didn't happen on Wednesday, you know. All right, so here we have our first card. We have Four of Cups. Focused enough. You guys get a gist. We're having a hard time getting the cards to focus this week, but that's okay. So Four of Cups. This has to do with so again with just kind of the basic general minor arcanas. A lot of times the 4 kind of has to do with building off of the foundations you set in the 3. We have the 1 kind of acting as the spark, the 2 being kind of a balance to that spark, maybe the shadow side of that spark sometimes. 3 has to do with your basic foundations. 4 is kind of building off of those foundations. Maybe reflecting a little bit on the foundations you build, whereas 5 is kind of where we start maybe hitting some obstacles on that, or just kind of an inner, a turmoil being met. So the 4 has to do with kind of building foundations in your cups, which has a lot to do with the water element, your emotional state, maybe the deep, Freudian subconscious. But here we see this character sitting beneath a tree, and they have 3 cups, and 1 is being offered by this kind of cloud. It's kind of this I think it's supposed to be kind of meant as this sort of divine offering, a universal offering. This isn't a human hand offering, it's kind of a hand formed from a cloud. So it's supposed to be kind of this divine offering. And we can see that this, this person is sitting under their tree, and they're staring at the cups that they have. They are not acknowledging this hand, they are not acknowledging the new thing, they are kind of stuck looking at what's already in front of them, even though this, I don't want to say that it's offering something better, because this character already has 3 cups, but it's offering another cup, it's offering an addition, it's an add-on. We are building, but this character does not seem interested in it. They seem very focused on what they have, things are the way they want to be, and presumably that has to do with the detriment of the person and their life, because they're so focused on how things need to look that they're not willing to be flexible. So this can have some to do with flexibility. Again, we're confronting that water energy, this ability to flow through life and roll with the punches, sort of. So what I'm kind of going with this, and I touched on this in the last reading, a lot of these weekly readings kind of build off on each other, in case you hadn't noticed by now. I was talking a little bit about how pampering can look like a lot of different things to different people, and you may not have the time or the energy to spend $300 getting yourself a piece of Gucci jewelry and going to the mall and buying yourself a $200 lunch for you and 12 of your closest friends. You may only have time to light a little candle, make your bed, and spend just 10 minutes reading a book. I think most people could carve out that. Even me in my busiest times of my life, just really hard-hitting classes, extracurricular work on top of that. Normally, even if not in a specific day, over the course of a few days, you can probably carve out 10 minutes to pamper yourself in some way. So here we see kind of consequences of that not being flexible in your perception of what is being offered to you, because this person has the ability to get something more, something better, but they are refusing because it does not look like what they had already perceived as, it's not exactly the life that they want, so they're refusing to be flexible on this. So I think we have a pretty good foundation on this. This could kind of go off as the consequences of not willing to be flexible in your self-care. I think the theme of this week is kind of shaping up to be self-care and the consequences that it has on your life. We're getting a lot of like water cards, a lot of very emotional cards, and dealing with your own mental health. So this is just kind of like harkening back, as this is kind of like our past card, harkening back to Monday's reading, talking about how you need to be flexible in order to move forward with your self-care goals, because if you don't take care of that, there can be some real consequences to your physical, mental health moving forward. So that's kind of the basis for this. Alright, second card. This is kind of an advice card. This is the present card. This is where do we go from here, knowing what we know now about the energy of where we're at. Do I want to hold both of these cards? I think I will. Alright, so we have the Queen of Swords and the Nine of Wands. These are both acting. Ugh. These are both acting as our present cards. So let me just take a quick look at this. Both of them have very stern faces, so it looks like we're coming against some very like hard obstacles. I know the Nine of Wands has a lot to do with just this kind of like burden of moving forward before moving into the Ten of Wands, which is just kind of that completion and moving forward. This is kind of the building up of some stresses, that fire energy. This can be very anxiety provoking. This can be very I don't know, it's hard to say, because it's not physical in the sense that Earth is physical, but it's physical in the sense of like actions being taken. So it's not something you can necessarily like count. It's not something you can necessarily measure, but it is very much in the physical world that these stresses being built up. Whereas we have the Swords, which is air. It's this very mental. It's this cold. It's this calculated. The Queen of Swords has she's sitting on this stone throne, or this just kind of like metal throne, carrying the sword and kind of looking down on our people. We're kind of reaching into this. I think this is what's kind of like another potential warning about not taking care of your own mental health and moving forward. In terms of like the people around you, just kind of like building up these walls. It's hard to articulate. There's a lot of what I'm getting from this reading has to do with your own actions and your own mental health. I know sometimes we kind of fluctuate between like, how are others impacting us? How are we interacting with ourselves? Are we supposed to be ignoring the people around us? Are we supposed to be engaging with our environment, or with the people in our environment, or the natural environment, the animals, like we had seen before with like the black cat? This can come as kind of again, I'm seeing a lot of build-up. I'm seeing a lot of just kind of like tension in this card. I guess that's what I'm more feeling it than like seeing it. Like just looking at these two cards, I can see kind of like a tension and a pain, even though that's not normally what the Queen of Swords is. This Queen of Swords is a very interesting character because she is kind of seen as this like cold and calculated character, but at the same time, she didn't just get that way. She was kind of pressed into it. There's this metaphor of like the metal being pressed deep within the earth over thousands of years, or being superheated, like being broken and rebuilt. You don't just arrive there. You have to like forge that. You have to build that. So it kind of has to do with these obstacles presenting, showing up. I think we're looking back at I wasn't really planning on addressing the shadows beneath the surface. We were hoping to kind of alleviate with self-care to avoid that, but it looks like maybe going into the middle part of this week, we really may just have to confront some of the issues that we're dealing with deep below the surface. That's not to say that they're boiling over. We're not fully at like the 10 here. It's not this deep like it's the Queen of Swords. It's not like this Ten of Swords, like death, like kind of energy, but it is like it's becoming very apparent that these cards are not going to be ignored. The issues you have are not going to be ignored. So as much as we were hoping maybe that bath we took on Monday was just going to nice and cleanse us, and I think it will. I fully stand by the advice that you need to be doing that because it's going to help keep you on top of this stuff. I think there is going to need to be more just like addressing, looking at the stuff that's bothering you. We all have those things where it's just kind of like, and oftentimes you don't have to look too hard to know what's bothering you, and if you do, that's fine. Just take some time, see what's kind of bubbling under the surface. I think we need to be taking the lid off the pot to let some of the steam out, otherwise it's going to boil over and it's going to ruin your pasta, and nobody wants ruined pasta in the middle of their week. We have too much going on, so this is preventing us from having sort of like a 5-alarm mental breakdown later on in the week, or maybe later on in the month, or later on in this year. Like, this is a pretty staunch warning. Just like, take a look at it, please. Like, I'm begging you, don't let it rule over your life. Maybe take 5 baths this week. Maybe or go on a ton of nature walks. This has to do with really not just like doing it once, but really creating room in your regular schedule to implement self-care, which you need to be doing. We kind of think of it as this last, like my life has to be perfect and then I'll self-care. Like, no, your life's not going to be perfect until, not perfect, but your life's not going to be going the way you want it until you start forcing yourself to do some self-care. So I'm getting some pretty powerful warning energy in that. So make sure you're taking care of yourself, guys. We don't have room for that. We don't have time to be hospitalized for poor mental health this year. I really wouldn't wish that on any of you, and I hope we can kind of step out and intervene that. If you're at a point in your life where you notice it's really not that serious right now, you're nowhere near that, then that's great. I'm not saying something foreboding is like lurking, like it's gonna get you, but I think everybody has room for improvement, even if it's not this like dire thing. I think it never hurts. If you're in a good spot, then that's great, but it never hurts to check under the hood. Maybe something's there, maybe it's not. But yeah, just make sure it doesn't get to that point is what I'm trying to say. And then our last card, moving forward, we have the Lovers. Alright, so the Lovers card. How are we kind of interpreting this going forward? I'm seeing a lot of I'm getting this really powerful divine energy. I know a lot of people never really focus, like, there's this very kind of like godly angelic presence above, and that's more the energy I'm getting from this as opposed to the actual like lovers themselves. And aside from like love and physical romance, which is it's not a huge focus on the readings that I give often, I think so much of our life can be determined by what we're doing and the choices we're making as opposed to the choices of those around them. That's kind of how I like to interpret the tarot. So I'm getting a much greater sense of this angelic, divine being above the lovers as opposed to the lovers themselves. And a lot of times the lovers represent this balance or a choice to be made. So this is kind of your final, there's going to be a choice coming up later in this week, or maybe you already know what it is, and you're getting to the point where you have to make a choice. So I'm really getting this sense of a choice, and this being kind of like a deeply impactful, maybe a spiritual thing. Maybe you want to take some time to just kind of sit at your altar, or sit wherever, sit in your garden, sit down by the river, or wherever you have a nice bench or a nice chair, somewhere kind of calm where you can just think and really kind of reflect on this choice and how it can impact the greater essence of your life, because I think there's some really interesting choices coming up for you guys, and really having to do with the balance in your life and what are you hoping to create. The divinity comes between the balance of these two choices, so we want to make sure we're putting in the work for that and just kind of creating this environment where we're not just work or play, or I'm getting a lot of the vibe with people with children and like getting overwhelmed with that, and this very much has to do with like putting on your own oxygen mask before putting on your kids, because you can't it's so hard to be able to take care of people when you're not even thinking about taking care of yourself, and children notice that kind of thing, and the people around you, not even just children, but like your friends and your family, even the older generations of your family will notice when you're not taking care of yourself, and sometimes that involves directly putting up these boundaries. So I'm not saying this is going to be an easy choice for you guys, but I think I like to think of it as an opportunity. Like you're so lucky to have this choice, even if it doesn't always seem like it. But you are being given this opportunity to make a choice to improve things for your life. So I hope that leaves you feeling kind of empowered and not like you're just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Very like Jordan Peele, Nope, like that shoe waiting to drop. That's kind of what we're feeling. So I hope you're not feeling like that. We want to be the other shoe. The other shoe is us making a choice. So like the other shoe is in your hand. So like you decide what to do with it. So yeah, I think that's where we're going with this Wednesday reading. I hope you guys are having a good kind of middle of your week, and I will see you guys for the Friday. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate everyone who's watching and just kind of keeping up with this channel, and I hope some of the advice that I'm giving is really resonating with you and improving your life in some way. Alright guys, I will see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.